Welcome. Survival has always fascinated humanity. Survival movies let us experience the thrill of battling nature, and sometimes even ourselves. Today, I'll take you on a journey through the best productions from around the world, showcasing the resilience of the human spirit. Ready for some extreme survival stories? Let's dive in. Society of the Snow. In the heart of the snowy, boundless Andes Mountains, a chilling story is unfolding. A plane carrying a Uruguayan rugby team crashes in a place where civilization ceases to exist. Shattered wreckage becomes the only protection from the merciless cold, and the silence is broken only by the wailing wind. Initial attempts to maintain order turn into a struggle for survival when provisions run out and hope for rescue melts like snow in the palm of your hand. The survivors are forced to make a decision that shakes their humanity. To live, they must sacrifice morality. In the face of inevitable death, the line between heroism and desperation blurs, and each day becomes a nightmare from which one cannot wake up. Every glance at what's left of their friends reminds them of the price of survival. In this harsh ice desert, the only question that remains is, how much are you willing to sacrifice to survive? Jungle. In the heart of the Amazon jungle lurks more than just wild animals and endless greenery. Four men, fascinated by the promise of adventure, set out into the unknown, guided by the words of a mysterious guide. Soon, however, their excitement turns into a struggle for survival. The impassable forest becomes a trap where every step threatens death. Storms, rushing rivers, merciless hunger and darkness invade the mind, killing all hope. As the characters' paths diverge, loneliness becomes even more terrifying. The voice of nature mixes with hallucinations, and the fine line between reality and madness is brutally crossed. This story is a raw, harrowing picture of how the jungle exposes the deepest fears and tests the limits of human endurance. The Mountain Between Us. The plane crashes into the side of an icy mountain, and two strangers, Ben and Alex, are stranded in a harsh, unforgiving wilderness. All around them is nothing but endless white, deadly cold, and silence broken only by the wail of the wind. Their only chance for survival is to work together, but the differences in their characters become an obstacle as difficult as the landscape around them. Hunger, exhausting hikes, and constant danger exhaust their strength. Each step through the icy wilderness is a reminder that one false move can mean death. Faced with a nature that knows no mercy, Ben and Alex must face not only the forces of nature, but also their own weaknesses, and their fight for life becomes a race against time, in which the limits of human endurance are put to the ultimate test. 127 hours. A man ventures alone into the wild desert canyons of Utah, where the land seems remote from civilization and full of mystery. As he climbs, a rocky trap closes over him when a boulder crushes his shoulder, imprisoning him in a narrow pass. With no means of escape, cut off from the world and with limited supplies of water and food, he begins the struggle for life. Days pass, and hope for rescue slowly fades. Facing death, he must confront the darkest recesses of his own mind. Every second of survival is a triumph over pain, fear, and loneliness. In the end, in order to survive, he decides to take a desperate step that will change him forever. This is a story of the indomitable will to live, which terrifies and fascinates with its brutal honesty. Mind. The Gray. In the heart of wild, frigid Alaska, a plane crashes, burying a group of men in the snow who come face to face with the purest form of horror. They are surrounded by endless expanses of white, where death lurks in every silent moment. They have survived the disaster, but the real nightmare is just beginning. With every step across the icy desert, they are watched. Lurking in the darkness are wolves, not ordinary wolves, but ferocious, relentless beasts that do not hunt for fun. These creatures are the epitome of the primal force of nature, and every roar is a foretaste of what awaits them. The fight for survival becomes a brutal duel between man and nature, where not only teeth and claws pose a threat, but also human desperation, fear, and exhaustion. Only one instinct can save them, the instinct to survive, which draws them into the middle of this terrifying primal tale. The Martian. Abandoned in the endless red desert of Mars, astronaut Mark Watney struggles with loneliness and hopelessness. Declared dead by his crew, he remains on his own in a world that seems to carry only the promise of death. Scarce supplies and the unforgiving conditions of this alien planet force him to take up the fight for each new day. Using his brilliant knowledge and indomitable spirit, Watney turns the Martian void into his survival training ground. But every success on this hostile Earth carries the risk of another disaster. Will human ingenuity prove sufficient to defy the unyielding nature of the universe? The way back. Locked in the brutal reality of the Gulag, condemned to slave labor, a group of prisoners has nothing to lose. Their only hope is to escape, but the price for freedom is almost unimaginable. Without maps, without preparation, they challenge the merciless Siberia. A hellish odyssey through endless snowy wastelands, scorching deserts, and treacherous mountains begins. Every step is marked by pain, hunger, and fear. The struggle against nature turns into an internal battle for humanity as it becomes increasingly clear who these people really are. On this journey, even the silence seems to scream of impending death. Survival is not the goal here. It is an impossible challenge that tests the limits of body, soul, and hope. Freedom lies hundreds of miles away, and each day is a sentence suspended on the edge of life and madness. The impossible. The violent impact of a devastating wave interrupts the blissful serenity of a tropical paradise. A family vacation turns into a nightmare when a huge tsunami engulfs the Thai coast, tearing people, homes, and hopes apart. The water, icy and full of debris, becomes an arena of struggle for life. A mother with her body lacerated and bleeding clings desperately to the remnants of her strength, trying to save her son. Elsewhere, the father, dazed and full of fear, searches through the chaos to find the rest of his family. Every breath is pain. Every second is a struggle against the inevitable. There is no room for relief, no time for grief, only the brutal will to survive that keeps them alive. In this striking tragedy of the elements lies the brute force of nature and the unyielding love that refuses to give up. Life of Pi. In the middle of the boundless Pacific, a boy, the sole survivor of a shipwreck, is adrift on a lonely lifeboat. However, he is not alone. On board, he is accompanied by a hungry and unpredictable Bengal tiger. This is no ordinary struggle for survival. Each day becomes a test of cunning, courage, and the will to live. The seemingly endless ocean hides more dangers than just hunger or storms. At night, the water comes alive, shimmering like something magical. But is it pure magic, or the hallucinations of a broken mind? Every move could be the last, every mistake costing lives. In this remarkable tale, the balance between man and nature, between reality and imagination, blurs with each passing day of drifting. When man and predator must find common ground to survive, something is born that transcends fear and instinct. Everest. On the highest mountain in the world, amid unpredictable storms and bone-chilling temperatures, a group of climbers face nature that knows no mercy. Their ambitious goal, to reach the summit of Mount Everest, turns into a nightmare when a deadly storm arrives. Oxygen becomes a luxury, and every step could be the last. Frost freezing in their veins, hurricane-force winds, and snapping ropes turn this dream into a struggle for survival. In this hell on Earth, the heroes have to face not only the forces of nature, but also their own weaknesses and decisions that could cost them their lives. Everest does not forgive mistakes, and the mountain that was supposed to witness their triumph becomes an arena of unimaginable suffering. The Revenant. A tale of revenge and a relentless fight for survival, is set in the harsh, frigid backwoods of wild America in the 19th century. Trapper Hugh Glass is attacked by a rabid grizzly bear, and his body, ripped apart and devastated, is barely a shadow of a man. Abandoned by his companions, including the treacherous John Fitzgerald, he is doomed to a slow, painful death in the wilderness. However, what would be an end for others becomes a beginning for Glass. Thrown to the brink of human endurance, determined to take revenge on those who took everything from him, he struggles against the terrifying cold, the wilderness, and his own suffering. Every step, every breath is a reminder of how thin the line between life and death is. In a world where humanity is giving way to brutality, Glass proves that the lust for revenge and the power of survival can transcend all boundaries. Discover the best survival movies from around the world. This list features films packed with tension, emotion, and the fight for survival. Explore stories that inspire and showcase the resilience of the human spirit. Which movie left the biggest impression on you? Share in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe.